All right, it's all yours.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. So our first item up is approval of the minutes from we did not hold a meeting, so we have to approve the minutes from, December 14th. That's correct. So entertain a motion or questions.
I reviewed the minutes and I would make a motion to approve.
All right. Anybody want to second that? One of the two of you?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries. Oh, sorry, I lost my thing here. I think the next item up is the updates, right?
Yes.
I just lost my agenda. So next item up would be hotel updates. Jim, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, for lack of want to sound like a broken record, business travel still is not doing a thing. We're surviving on group business, leisure business on the weekends, youth sports, things of that nature. Not a whole lot has changed other than we are not seeing many cancellation requests come in as of late. I think that the mask mandate being lifted on March 1st will help further our efforts in getting maybe some of these small meetings back that were being held in offices or other locations where perhaps they didn't feel like they would have to mask up. So hopefully we'll see a little uptick in smaller corporate business as well. But pretty much status quo, which is a heck of a lot better than where we were at a year ago.
Exactly. I don't know if we talked about it. I don't remember, Julie, remind me in December, but did we talk about North Central's property selling? Was that out there? Did we go over that already, or?
We did talk about it. The closing was scheduled around the time that we met.
Okay.
So it's probably appropriate to just reiterate that they have been sold.
So that's the Hilton Garden, the Courtyard, and the residents in North Central retained the Fairfield.
Correct.
Who was the new management group again? What was their name?
G as in girl, F as in Frank Hotels.
That's right.
Is the name of the management company. They also have a property in Baraboo.
Green Bay.
And I don't have my notes handy, but Green Bay was the other one.
And I actually just had some notes from the sports commission. The main thing is we were really kind of treading a fine line there with things starting to cancel because of our mask mandate, and including like WIAA. There were multiple events in the next month or two that we're actually talking about moving if we did not get rid of that. So I guess yesterday's announcement was perfect timing on that. Let's just hope that it sticks, unlike the last two times, and hopefully all those events will be kind of safe. But Ellie did kind of reiterate that we've lost some smaller stuff because of it. Nothing major, but it's still room nights in the Madison area that are gone to neighboring counties like Sauk County and whatnot. So
Didn't you think the announcement from yesterday was different than before, though? This one seemed like they were really trying to get ahead of things and it wasn't like they were waiting to the last minute to decide anything. It's like I just got the feeling that this was not going to change.
I hope so. I really do. I think a lot of the rights holders, including like DM, Sports Commission, everybody was really kind of putting the pressure on. They needed to know, because some of these events that are next month, for instance, would need to change now. So I don't know what was the defining factor, but I think it's good news, especially where all of our numbers and stuff are at, because that would have impacted us over here negatively again, when we're trying to start kicking the year off finally after coming out of the winter months. So that was kind of the major thing that I had from that. Oh, some of the other things, Tim, I don't know if you saw much from the curling, but I know that Rebecca and Matt Hamilton confirmed that they're going to compete in that, which I thought was kind of cool. March 7th and 8th or whatever it is at Capitol Ice. So they're expecting ticket sales to really kind of it helped that after coming off the Olympics, assuming they start winning some matches coming up here.
Right.
500 is not going to win you a gold medal, but
I haven't
Um,
looked at those days to see if there's anything happening or any traction as far as room nights, but I can take a quick peek.
yeah, I was just kind of curious how spread out that was. I know that when I was in the hotel side of things, I know they partnered up with that new Holiday Inn, but I didn't know. I think they partnered up with North Central, but then I believe the hotels that were partnered up with were the ones that were sold. So I don't know really
Yeah,
how that panned up.
They have 3 hotels in the block. It's the Holiday Inn Express, the Staybridge, and the Town Place.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's the 7th through the 13th. It spans quite a bit. I can't say exactly like what dates Matt and Rebecca will be competing, but yeah, that's going to be a huge draw.
Yeah, that'll be great. And then the last thing I had from that too is the cross country skiing. It really wasn't from the meeting, but well, and Julie, I know has talked to Yuri too, but they're doing really well. He actually chartered the trolley from us a week and a half ago to just move people up and down the hill. They've had so many people up there and the lack of parking. I think Julie, what'd you say? He sold like over 1,000 passes already, or?
That was the last number that I heard.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing? I mean, they started out after 2 weeks, they had 400 passes. And then the next time I talked to him, it didn't seem like that much time had elapsed.
Yeah.
That was right around the time, Corey, that he called and asked about the trolley.
Okay.
So that would have been what, mid-January, late January, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because we did that like the 4th and the 5th or something like that.
Mhm.
And we did, yeah, we went up. Man, those people are brave. It was cold and windy up there. But it was
They're hardy souls.
It was kind of cool to see it because the last time I'd been up there was when we were getting eaten by mosquitoes, walking underneath the power lines from the golf course. So,
Yeah.
if you haven't had anybody haven't had a chance to drive up there, the road's still not on Google, so I had to have get creative with our drivers. But it's kind of cool up there. It's coming along, so it's kind of nice to see that come into fruition. So
Kind of to piggyback on that, the Destination Madison Foundation Board of Trustees met yesterday, and we approved a grant in the amount of 2,600 and something, I think it was. Don't quote me on it, but it was around $2,600 for solar lighting to be installed up there.
nice.
So hopefully that will be coming soon. I know Yuri's been making snow. And Michelle, we talked about getting you and Secretary Sayers from the Department of Tourism, Representative Hesselbein, and myself together for a ski lesson with him.
Yes,
So-
absolutely. I'm in.
Which we had talked about at that groundbreaking back in August. So we're working on putting some dates together and we'll get a doodle poll out.
And good luck with that. I've been watching some cross country skiing on the Olympics, and it just makes me tired of watching.
Oh my God, those people are amazing,
I know. It's not
crazy amazing.
That's pretty much what I had for updates. If you want to take it from here, Julie, with staff.
I could just add to some of the comments that you made, both of you guys made relative to travel. I sat on a webinar today and the analytics, this is Destination Analytics, by the way, who has been doing these since the pandemic started. So their latest data is showing that leisure travel is going to continue to lead the way. Drive market is still very big. Domestic travel, more so than international travel, still very big. Not back to normal, although people are starting to feel a little less anxious about traveling. Conversely, communities are starting to be a little more apprehensive about having visitors come into their communities. So those were kind of interesting, somewhat conflicting feelings. Travel market has the ability to improve. I think the expectation for services has diminished somewhat. You know, people that have been traveling on a regular basis get it that there's a workforce shortage. You might have to stand in line longer. Things are a little bit different at hotels. So there seems to be an adjustment to what the expectations are. And they also talked about the diversity in channels that people are using for planning. Websites still remains the #1 channel for information for planners. So I think our next big project on the branding refresh is to just rebuild our website, and we're going to start working on the RFP process next week. So that'll probably take a year. I think, Murray, you were figuring spring of 2023 as a target date for the completion of that. As well as Facebook, Instagram, you know, the usual suspects on social media. And then the back half of the webinar was a panel of planners, and they ranged from folks who were independents to corporate to association planners. The corporate folks were saying that national meetings still not big on their radar, and if they are doing national meetings, they're doing hybrids. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a continuation. I see you're nodding your head, Jim, so you're hearing the same
Yes.
thing. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a continuation of that with events that are coming into Monona Terrace in particular. Corporates are doing smaller and more regional meetings, which had been forecasted a year ago. So that's still holding true. And then I thought this was really interesting. The majority of them said they're looking at destinations that are allowing more flexibility for safety and health protocols. In other words, they're not looking at destinations that have strict policies in place, either within a municipality, a county, or the state, because they want to be able to control the environment and have it come from the association and not necessarily, or the event organizer, and not necessarily be a dictate of the destination. So I am very hopeful that we're lifting the mask order, but I would anticipate that we're going to see more and more event planners putting these protocols in place themselves and asking for folks to comply. And Jim, I know you and I talked about the track coaches, which was at the Marriott a couple of weeks ago. They all really seem to be embracing the masking policy and adhering to the other safety and health protocols that the organizers have put in place.
Yeah. Yep.
So I
Track
think
coaches did pretty well. Baseball coaches did pretty well as well. You know, they're school teachers too, so they're wearing masks all day already. So I think that helped, but it definitely is nice to see.
And as far as destinations, top 10, they're starting to look more at urban and cities and destinations that have events, getting back to concerts, getting back to sporting events. So that was a trend that was starting last summer, and that's going to continue on probably through the remainder of 2022. So good news, leisure travel is up. I mean, we noticed last year in our STAR report that there was a huge difference in occupancy and ADRs from the months of May through September. And I would suspect that we'll see the same thing going into spring and summer of 2022. The only other thing I had, Corey, was the Wisconsin DMO grant, which we were awarded in November. We're still waiting for the payment. I had planned on using some of those funds for 2021 expenditures, and now all of that money is going to get deposited into 2022. So the good news is we'll have a little more to work with for marketing and promotion going into this year. And I'll just reserve any other comments on that till we get to the budget discussions. I think that's it for us unless staff, Mari or Laura, have anything they want to jump in with.
We move forward then, so then moving to the grant applications. First item up is an art walk here in Middleton. And Michelle, I believe, did you want to talk about that or have anything extra to say?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and introduce myself first. My name is Michelle Phillips. I'm the chair of the Middleton Arts Committee, and we are currently working on Art Walk for 2022. Art Walk was last held in 2019, and the format at that time was to pair artists with local businesses. Because Stone Horse Green is going to be under construction this year, we have decided, and because of COVID, we have decided to hold the event fully outside. And we are looking to close off Terrace Avenue to do that. We have been working with Capital Brewery, and we are planning to have live music outside in the beer garden, and children's events, as well as artists showing and selling their wares. We hope that in the future we may be able to bring it back to the original format, but at this year it just wasn't feasible. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing this year. And so we are asking tourism to provide a grant for advertising. We have currently a $6,000 budget, although I think that might be bumped up a little bit because we have found in many instances advertising rates have gone up, and so we are probably going to increase that a bit, but we are asking for $1,250 to cover advertising costs for the event. And it is a one-day event. It'll be on May 14th.
What was the total ask? 2,500?
$1,250.
1,250 just for advertising.
Mhm.
And where's the, how far out are you planning on going with the advertising?
We're advertising primarily around this area, but we are also advertising in Milwaukee, I think Green Bay, and several other areas. We are advertising in the Midwest. I can't think of the name of it. Julie, help me out. Midwest.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It was at the Midwest Art and Crafts Guide, I think.
Midwest Art and Craft Guide, I think it's called. That's a publication that goes literally to, I don't know, 12 or 14 states in the Midwest. Most of the advertising will be print and digital both. And we are also utilizing Facebook for advertising. We have not placed too much advertising as of yet. The art guide had to be placed earlier in the year, so that one has been determined. That one's pretty much set in stone, but yes, we kind of are focusing on Wisconsin, but we also did the Midwest Art Guide.
Julie, did you have anything to add at all, or?
I am totally supportive of this event. We don't have any real cultural events at this point in Middleton, and I think that the expansion of the concept, going from in businesses to out on the street, making it bigger. There's entertainment. They'll be able to incorporate one of our attractions into the event. And the other thing that appeals to me from a broader perspective is the fact that it is being promoted in the Midwest Art Fair Guide, which, as Michelle noted, expands into several different states, as well as the reach out within the state of Wisconsin. I think there's potential here for overnight stays. I mean, we can't quantify it at this point. And I don't know, Michelle, I don't remember if there was any discussion about blocking rooms for vendors themselves, but I would venture to guess that some of these artists will be coming in the night before and or staying Saturday night. So I think there's a possibility of seeing some paid overnight stays coming along with the addition of business that this will drive for downtown. I think it has a lot of potential.
I think Julie's right. There will be some opportunity for overnight stays. The most of the economic impact of the event, of course, is the day of. Last time that we held this, we were partnered with businesses, encouraging businesses to go in. Currently, we're looking at ways that we can kind of connect still Hubbard Ave to the event, and we're working on that. We're trying to figure out how to market to bring people down to the businesses downtown. We know some will just go. And I think that, we would certainly encourage the shops to be open that day, to perhaps hold sidewalk sales if they're, if that's something that they're, interested in doing. Or, there would also be opportunities probably for some co-op advertising for the businesses as we get closer to the event. But we were able to track last time at the library how many people came. And we had about 1,600, 1,700 people that came to the event. We expect to have probably at least that many. We think that with an outdoor event and more things going on, we'll have greater attendance, I guess.
This is limited to Dane County artists, correct? Isn't that what I originally heard, is you're trying to focus on
We're trying to
Dane
keep
County?
it regional. We decided as a committee not to turn anyone away. We are limiting it to fine art, however. If somebody wants to come from Janesville, I don't think we're going to limit that. We have much more capacity for artists now than we had in the past. We have enough space if we close the street for 70 to 100 artists, we think. So we probably will not get that many, but we do have a much greater capacity. Last time we were limited to the businesses that we were able to partner with. I think we capped it at 50 last time, maybe, or 30. I would have to look.
Yeah, 50 was the number I heard at License and Ordinances when they were asking about that. It might be hard to funnel people to you're having food carts, the entertainment, and all the beer and stuff right at the Capitol Brewery and the pavilion there. So it might be hard to funnel traffic elsewhere in town, but.
Well, we've been talking about having some of our kids events closer down to Parmenter, the Parmenter ends. We will have demonstrations going on by the artists as well. We know though that, some people will not want to eat at a food truck. And at this point, we don't have any food trucks booked. We haven't pursued that to any great extent. We're still kind of working on the food. The person who's working on that has had a delay. And so we have a lot of things we're still ironing out,
Right.
At this point, because it is just February. So we are still working on a lot.
I just, to give a big picture of what this could look like. Yeah.
And I think perhaps Abby had, and I wish I had it with me, I think that perhaps Abby may have had a PDF of kind of what we envisioned. Essentially, the demonstrations would be next to the skate park. And then we would have the food trucks closer to the beer garden to kind of keep the beer and the food all together. Artists would then be positioned along the street. And we're not sure, I'm not sure if this will ironed out at LNO, but we're not sure if we would be able to do a vendor on each side of the street if the street was wide enough. So we're still, working that out as well. But we envision it going all the way from High Point to Parmenter.
Any questions or Does anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the funding.
All right. Anybody want a second? One of the two of you left.
Michelle, sorry, when is this event again? Is it in May?
Yeah, May 14th, it's a Saturday.
May 14th. I'll second Jim's motion.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Nobody opposed, so the motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it, and we're looking forward to having a successful event.
Hey, welcome. It was a good, yeah, it looks great, so
Yeah.
looking forward to it again. I agree with Julie. We need more stuff like that in, in the downtown area. So, I think it'd be
Yeah,
good.
I think Middleton lacks festivals too, just coming in as an outsider for the size of the town. I think it lacks festivals, and we're all very excited about this, having not been able to hold it for the last couple of years, and showcasing art in the community, and I think it'll be great. I think I'm very excited about it. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Just
So-
as a point of clarification for the Tourism Commission, I'm going to take this out of the destination partnership budget
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
rather than the tourism line.
All right, so we move forward. And Michelle, you're welcome to stay on, or you can sign
I'm
off,
gonna
whatever.
go because I need to get the newspaper put together, but I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
We don't
Thanks,
blame you.
Michelle. I'll follow up with you.
Okay, thanks. Have a good night.
See you later.
You too. Bye.
So the next item up is another grant. And Julie, I just had a question too, because I brought up that grant discussion. I can actually bring that up during the items for the next agenda though, right?
Yes,
Maybe more appropriate, or that perfect.
yes.
So next item up, our next grant request rather, is the Midwest Tool Collectors Association Spring 2024 meeting. I did a first glance on this one, and I'm not comfortable with a rebate payout on this. I kind of feel like we need to punt this one to the next meeting to try to get clarification on a dollar amount and such, but I don't know, I'll defer to Jim. Do you have any info on that, or any recommendation?
No, I agree with you, Corey. I think that makes sense. It's in full transparency. I've not had a ton of time to read through his full application.
Basically, like, so they got 3,700 for 2021, and I kind of read through this, like the conference is like, it said 200 to 300 attendees, I believe is what he had on there. And he said he would give Middleton a booth. And I kind of read that as like, so we're going to spend $3,500 to have a booth to meet with 200 people.
Right.
And, when you would normally spend that to meet with maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Exactly.
And not to, that's just kind of how the grant reads as is. And perhaps maybe there's other stuff that we might be able to work out with them. That was just kind of my initial thought. I'm curious to, what you guys have to say as well, though.
Balance of cost says Midwest Tool Collectors is not seeking full funding, but rather an incentive equal to $10 per room night.
He's looking for a commission,
Right.
essentially, right?
And I think we're kind of walking a fine line by funding commissions, generally when they come out of the hotels.
Right.
Funding,
Right.
It just may not look right.
Yeah. No, I mean, if he wants to go after grant funding, it needs to be due to, marketing, tourism,
Right.
and then the grant awarded based upon that. I don't, paying an end user rebate out of the tourism commission doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. I just wanted to
One
make
thing
sure.
I did not do, Corey, was look up last year's grant to see, do you want me to do that? While you're talking through the.
Sure.
the application. I would note that when I went through here, the only charge or the only expenses that I saw that would be incurred for marketing totaled $850, I think it was. Give me a minute here.
And get to this.
Yeah, on the first page of his spreadsheet, third section, he's got printing and supplies. Printing of announcement. I mean, that's really the only thing I saw in here that had any marketing related activity. And that was $850.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that we gave them a grant last year, simply because we were so excited to have somebody bring their business and
Yeah.
actually go forward with the event.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, and that was actually gonna, and this kind of gonna lead into the other discussion after we're done with the next two items, but is it already contracted?
It is.
Okay. Not that that's a bad thing, but I was just kind of curious, so
Yeah.
I can
Did he-
lead into that more later.
Did they contract for 2 years at the time, Jim, or did he come back around?
Yeah, so they did not. It was contracted just for that single year. And then they came back around and wanted to look at 2024.
Okay,
So, yeah, he's all signed. You know, personally, if he wanted a rebate per room night, I wish he would have talked to me about that in the negotiation process. We could have written something into the contract so that, you know, again, that's something that's not really appropriate in my perspective to be asking.
What did they get last year?
I'm trying to
3,700, I think is what I read on.
I'm trying to bring up I think that's what he
Yeah.
had, but I wanted to bring up the application just to see if he did the same thing.
Right, did he fill it out the same way?
Yeah,
And the way he has it written now, it would equate to more money. Is that what they're thinking? Would be a higher amount?
If they
Regardless,
fill it-
he, right, regardless, he'd be capped at 5,000. He probably looked at
Right.
our requirements, and that will pay out $10 a room night. And
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's probably where he got that from.
Yeah, because we talk about that all the time, about how many room nights, if we want to
Right.
keep it around that and stuff. And it probably is just the way it's, you know, he just, you know, thought about it. So.
Mhm.
And I'm sure there was nothing intentional or whatever. I don't know, I just feel like, and not to mention it's 2024. I don't really feel like there's probably a rush on this one that, you know, if we got some more information, I think that would be appropriate.
Yep.
so while you're saying that, so it sounds to me like there's a consensus to postpone a decision, and you want me to go back to Larry and get more specifics on their marketing expenses?
I think we need like a motion. I mean, I'll be the bad guy and I'll motion to defer it to the next meeting based on, I think we need more information on a dollar amount and more information on exactly what would kind of be in return, or what the funds are for. I think just clarity on all of that.
Yeah.
Well, he's given us a budget, so I'm just trying to figure out what to say to him. I mean, basically, I think what we're saying is there are no marketing expenses here. So we're asking for more information on their marketing,
Yeah, I mean, and
their
I don't mean
marketing
it to,
plan.
I don't mean it to sound rude, but like, you know, like having a table is, like I said, having a booth at a show with like 200 people. I just don't know what the value of that is, and it, you know, it wouldn't be thousands of dollars, and maybe we would spend $500 for something like that, you know.
So if he comes back and he says, okay, well, in addition to that, we'll put a link to your website on our page. We'll have signage in the property. Are those the types of things that would influence your decision on giving him a grant?
I just feel like anything that, you know, more benefit to us, you know, I guess I would probably leave that up to you. I mean, there's so much
Okay.
gray area in our grants, which is kind of why I wanted to talk about that. Maybe we could just move to that section next.
Well, I think you have a motion on the table that you
Yeah,
started.
I made the
so-
motion, so I just said entertain a second. Or another motion.
I'll second it.
All right. Any other discussion on it? All
Do you
those
have
in
enough,
favor?
do you have enough, Julie, to go on to when you talk to
I
them?
think so, Kathy. We've had this situation pop up in the past, and I will just try to give him a laundry list of things that would be meaningful to us as far as marketing and promotion. And
I
try
guess
to-
I'm just, yeah, a little confused. If we gave him 37.50 last year, we thought, or whatever,
Yeah,
we would still have had, those would have been qualifying expenses at that time, right? Or we would have looked at it with the
well, I
right,
think the other thing we could say is that it was a first-time event.
That's the
Okay.
thing is,
For
and it
Middleton.
was, we would have given him, grants out to anyone that was looking to have events last year, so.
Yeah,
I can, I'm sure that's probably what it was.
okay, I see. So we were a lot more liberal then, and we're just trying to make sure we have all the documentation and what we're looking for. Okay.
right.
Yeah, I feel like if you're just looking at a grant as what's your return on investment, and that's kind of just, I don't know, that's the way. I guess
Actually,
I
the other
look at
thing
it.
we took under consideration was that it was in the month of June.
Right.
And I think we were pretty lean in the month of June at that
Mhm.
point. Do you remember how his room block came in, Jim? Or did he have that on here for us?
Yeah, it was about half, Julie.
Okay,
So we
I'm
had
sorry, I can't get to my tourism folder because I'm in Outlook here.
Okay.
If you want to pursue that, I can ask Mari or Laura to see if they can get into 365 and pull it up. While we discuss the grant application guidelines.
well, so I think we have to vote on
But
this
you
one
do
first.
have a motion on the table.
Yeah, and then Jim seconded, so is there any other discussion or questions, I guess, Jose or Kathy?
No, I'm good. I just
Okay.
wanted to.
I mean, I'm not saying no, I just think we can just see if we can get more info and look at it next month. All those in favor, then I guess say aye.
I
Nobody opposed, so that carries, so then we'll just take a look at it next month. We can just keep going in order, Julie, we'll just save that for the end in case there's any other items, so if you wanna take over and go through
Well,
your.
this is probably the appropriate time to bring up your thoughts on the application itself
I can, yeah.
and the guidelines.
I was just trying to fit this into our agenda because it's not an agenda item, so we technically can't vote on anything. It was more of just a kind of throwing an idea at the board, but I feel like I think we should probably put this on the next meeting agenda is so I guess we are jumping to that section. Revisiting our grant criteria. I've been at this for a long time, and the way it kind of started off is we're trying to use these funds for new events. And then that kind of turned into advertising, and it turned into existing events. And there was events that we had that were over and over and over again. And I just still feel like there's a cloud over our grant criteria and what it actually entails. And then we have $30,000 budgeted a year, which it seems like a lot of money, but if you have 6 people that come in and apply for $5,000, that's 6, and that's really not that much. And so I was talking to Julie about this, just kind of brainstorming this afternoon, and it's like, what if we dumb that down? And one thing I came up with just for the 30,000 is we just offer $1,500 grants. Like there's no dollar amount that they need to apply for. I thought of 1,500 because it fits nicely into 30, 20 potential folks. And then you could probably ease up the requirements a little bit, like not necessarily a new event. It could be, we'd still have to have some kind of room night requirements. I don't know if it's like 100 nights or whatever. We'll have to come up with something like that. And then you're applying for $1,500. You have a room night requirement, and then you have to fit, I don't know if we come up with like 5 different things of what they have to do and they have to pick one of them and that's what they do. I just think something simplified. I don't know, we've struggled with this for over 10 years and I don't think we've figured it out. So just to kind of throw it out there, and I don't know if, I don't want to obviously put anything at risk at, Jim, with your events and stuff, but I just feel like somebody sees $5,000 on there, being in sales, I'm going to apply for 5. Why not? And just see how it goes. And I don't feel like everybody does that, but I feel like a good 75% of them probably do, just because that's the amount out there. So I don't know if we want to have like a small group that's not a quorum, get together between now and the next meeting to discuss some items and then maybe put that on. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
My thought is, I think we should discuss it as a group so everybody can weigh in on that. I know it, like Jim, what your thoughts are going to weigh really heavily on this because it's your business. I'm wondering, I just want to throw out different questions like, is there going to be a really big group that wants to come in that the $5,000 will mean a lot to, or are we going to, by capping it at 1,500, is that not going to cover every scenario that may come forward? Those are things I'd like to just have a conversation about as a group.
Can I just ask, have we ever had a phased structure? So for instance, if you're bringing this brand new group in, you qualify for this. If you're a repeat group and you want to market, you have to give an itemized list of what your marketing plan is before we approve what that is. Kind of like what we did with Good Neighbor Fest a year or 2 ago, where we required them to tell us, what are you actually going to spend the money on before we say, yes, you can have $2,000.
I feel like we've done a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I get it. Like, we're a small group and it's hard to be the bad guy on some of this stuff. So like, that's where I just was like, well, maybe the black and white approach might be, I don't know that, I don't, and the reason I asked if that guy was already on the books, Jim, because I feel like 75% or more of these guys that come in, they're already signed. It's not really being used today to get new groups,
Right.
And not that that's the be all end all, but that was what it was initially intended for. I think I was on the commission when we started the grants. I don't recall, but I'm pretty sure it was. And that's what it was initially intended for, but it's always just been very, very gray. So it's not a huge discussion we need to have now. I feel like it should go on the agenda next month and just, I guess everyone just come to the table with some ideas, maybe what that might look like and go from there.
Yeah, everybody should spend some time looking at what the grant application is and how it's worded and come up with some thought. I think that's a really good idea. It's something we probably should do more than,
Annually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't
Sure.
revisited this application since 2018. I think that's the last time we did any revisions on it. And at that point, we made the decision to withhold payment until the event was completed. And there was a post-event summary. I mean, up until that point, we were just giving out money and we weren't asking for any kind of report out on ROI.
Right.
So that was a pretty significant change. And I think really what started this conversation with Corey and I today was new event. I would say probably a good 2/3 of the grants that we've given out since I've been here have been to repeat events.
Yeah.
And we never had much in that destination partnership line, which really has no definition. I think it was established for groups like Circle Wisconsin, where we purchased a sponsorship. So over the last 3 years, I've been trying to use that as sort of a guideline. And some of these events, track coaches come to mind, who we've been giving a $5,000 grant to for probably close to 7 years. I just moved them into destination partnership, dropped it to the amount that I can authorize payment for. And I think that's something that we can be doing with some of these repeat events that have been loyal to us. Because I do think there's value in
Right.
rewarding them for continuing to do business with us, especially now that so many other destinations have got new convention centers, new conference centers popping up. I mean, we lost a lot of business to Kalahari, which, we're going to have to really work hard to get back.
Mhm.
So I think while you're doing this, let's also look at that destination partnership line and try to put a little more robustness around what the intended usage of those funds are too.
And maybe it's one of those things that we can combine them too. Like, I don't know, I just think everything's on the table. The reason I thought about it, because this Midwest tool collector, I'm using them as an example, but like the way the grant was originally set up, we would have turned this down. However, you have groups like the track coaches or like the Women's Festival, I think it was the one
Mhm.
over the 4th of July, which is another good example. And, the thing is if we don't kind of limit our ceiling amount to something more manageable, you're going to get the same folks that are going to come and just want $5,000 every time. But, if I keep going back to like 1,500, but like 1,500, $2,000 seems like a manageable amount. And if they're still fitting our, criteria at that point, maybe, you would just leave the door open to repeat stuff too. So, like I said,
I think
just
another
something to
thing you
keep
might
looking
want to take under advisement is the time of year that the event
at.
is coming. I know that was part of the reason why we continue to award the grants to the Women in the Arts Festival, was simply because
Right.
it was over July 4th and a sizable room block over July 4th. So
Mhm.
that might be another criteria that you want to take under advisement as we review this.
So,
Or
Would
your
it be-
rental, yeah. The
Would it
six-
be helpful if staff did a little research on what some other communities or what other DMOs are doing within the state? I don't know that we need to go outside of the boundaries of Wisconsin, but we could take a look at some places in Illinois.
I'd be curious to
Or-
see if you can find anything, because I know we've done that in the past, and we're so unique in being able to offer that. And
Right.
I know it was just a struggle to find anything, but by all means, if you can find, what other communities are doing, I'd certainly be curious.
I think we could make a reach out to some of our peeps in Destination Wisconsin. Because we're pretty good about sharing information with each other. For us, it's all about who can bring business to the state. If you can get it in your destination, that's great, but let's at least get it into the state. And I know Janesville has a program. We looked at Sun Prairie the last time we revised this. And I feel like Green Bay was the other city that we took a look at. Some were municipalities. But that might at least be a starting point. We could just put a one pager together of best practices based on, 3 to 5 other communities. And that'd be a jumping off point for you.
I think that'd be good. One other thing that may be helpful too is a list of the annuals and what they get out of like maybe the destination partnership.
Yeah, that's really easy. I've kept a spreadsheet since I've
Okay.
been here, and there was staff prior to us had a spreadsheet going, so we can go as far back as you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't spend too much time on it. Maybe it'll, last year or two or whatever you have
Mhm. Mhm.
is fine, I think. So we'll punt that for the next meeting for March. Is there anybody have any other items for the next agenda? We'll just finish this up while we're on it. Nope. Okay. So we'll go backwards then to Julie to the 2021 room tax collection recap.
Okay. Hang on just a second. Laura, can you bring, oh, go ahead. Did you?
I just want to say, just thinking about other updates. Mari, is there any need for an update on how the branding's going for next meeting?
Not unless you guys want to see
Okay, I didn't know. if there's
any more
anything-
visuals. Yeah,
Nope.
the
I just-
branding's pretty much done. We're just still creating a few of our marketing materials right now.
Okay, so I just was wondering if you wanted an opportunity to talk about some of that, so, good,
If you ever have questions, just ask.
I will.
Laura, can you bring up the root tax collection reports? Please. So the good news is we actually outperformed for the year on my reforecast that I did for as part of the 2022 budgeting process. Downside is we underperformed based on what we had budgeted. The PPP loan helped out a little bit. So we should, at the end of the year, be looking at a shortfall of 73,487. I'm going to round that up and say 488. I was hoping, like I said earlier, that the DMO grant would be in, which would have helped offset some of the marketing expenses. I wanted to go through the year-end expense to budget report with you today. And when I pulled it up on Friday and took a look at it, I could see that it was missing a lot of expenses. Their finance is still getting January and February credit card charges, or excuse me, December and January credit card expenses into the report. So our expenses to date, based on the last report, were 810,494, which actually put us $10,777 to the good. In other words, we were going to have 10,000 and some change to put back into the fund balance. I don't believe that's a true figure. So we'll do a deeper dive in March. And then you can see on this next slide how that.
Can you rotate it? There
Oh,
we go.
rotate your
Oh,
head.
even better.
How that plays out over a 5-year period of time.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, we did really well in 2018, but we have to remember there was a 1% increase in room tax that year. 2019 was down because of the renovation work that was being done over at the Marriott. We had to move some business during the course of the year due to the extending of that project. And then, of course, 2020, we all know what happened there. So, if you look at 2021, we're making a comeback, 100% improvement over the previous year, although the bar was very low the previous year. And based on what I heard today in the webinar that I sat in on, and looking at some of the other research that's coming out for 2023, it's still going to be soft. But I think we're going to do better. So there's hope. I mean, the little box down in the bottom of the sheet there sort of tells the story that we're still 40% underwater from where we'd like to be. But showing signs of improvement, so I'm optimistic. Any questions or comments?
Only we, if that figure is correct, could figure out how to still manage to add money to our fund balance in a terrible year.
Yeah. I will add year-end review of 2021 for next meeting. And we'll do a deeper dive on the report by line item. And then 2022, Laura, if you can bring that one up. I had noted in November that the budget had been approved and there weren't any changes to tourism. And when I went back and looked at what was in the budget book, I did notice there were a couple of things. If you want to flip to the next page, Laura. So the highlighted sections here are things that are lines that were different than what we had originally talked about. These first two sections were adjusted by finance based on approval of COLA and some of the changes that occurred when we changed our healthcare provider. So they went down a little bit. And then moving into that next section, the operating expenses, Bill actually transposed some numbers here. The 2,600 is correct for insurance, but utilities should actually be 2,800. And the 10,005 goes into the research line. And that actually came out to be 15,200, which is what we had initially asked for. So it didn't change the bottom line in the operating expenses. I just wanted you to be aware of it because as we move through the year, those buckets are going to look really different as the expenses start to get applied to the budget. And then moving to the last page, Laura, the destination partnership line, which is the first one there. B-cycle was removed. We had a placeholder in there for B-cycle of 80,000. So Bill took that out when that was removed from the capital budget. We removed the Pilch and Barnett marketing expense further down the page there because that was actually part of the new marketing agreement was that we would not be incurring a retainer per se. I mean, we understand that there's going to be project expenses, but they will be on a per project basis. And Mari and I are watching pretty carefully as far as what those expenses have been on the projects that we've done to date. So that reduced our total expenditures a little bit. Again, the most significant thing there was the removal of the B-cycle dollars. And I will tell you that even though the renovation project is coming along really well, we are already over budget. We're probably going to be about 20,000 over budget by the time we are finished with everything. The joy of working with an older building is every time you remove something, it reveals something that needs to be repaired or replaced or rethink what you're doing. And I came in today, the building inspector had been here and the electrical inspector had been here on Monday and gave us approval to proceed. However, they also wanted us to do some additional work around the upper part of the walls where there isn't any protection from the elements. In other words, it's not very well insulated. So we're going to have to put a Band-Aid on that. I'm not concerned about it. I think what we need to talk about in March is just the reallocation of some of the funding that was in the initial budget. And the first place I would look at, if up above the destination partnership there is the trade show grants. We built in a pretty substantial cushion in that line, thinking that things might be coming online during the course of the year that we'd want to be involved with. Corey and I talked a little bit today about what's going on in the group tour world. I'm not seeing a lot of change from the hybrid option that's being offered in some of the industry events that we're interested in. So I think we can take some funds from that line and reallocate them to the renovation project. The other thing is we will have some additional funds from the DMO grant that we didn't anticipate having in 2022, which will be available to help offset some of those expenses. So as I said, I'll have a better idea when we meet next month of where we are on the renovation. But it's starting to look like there's going to be offices and a conference room back there. The framing is up. They did some drywalling today. It's finally moving along, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to open to the public in March. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, then I will add that, Corey, to the next meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. Do we have anything else then? I think, are we good to go?
Just to recap for next month, then we'll be talking about the grant criteria.
Mhm.
Take a look at year-end expense to budget report and consider 2022 budget reallocations.
And the Midwest Tool Collectors grant will get
Thank you.
reviewed as well. All right, I think we're good to go then. Unless anyone has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anybody want to second that? All right, Jose. Hey, we're good to go. Do we want to vote on it, or the three of you, anyone going to oppose that? I'm assuming we're good to go.
Have a good
All right.
one, everybody.
Yeah, have a good night. It was a good meeting.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys. Have a good one.